So I just saw Slender Man and it was awful. Isn't this movie about 5 years too late? Does anybody give a shit about Slender Man anymore? You'd think that they would go for the angle of trying to recreate that actual Slender Man stabbing that happened, but instead they create something that I'm not really exactly sure what they were going for here. It felt like they were ripping off several things at once. Now there's some video that they watch that curses them, so it's like a really tame and poorly acted version of The Ring, I guess. And when I say poorly acted, I mean, hoo boy. This is one of those movies where you instantly know it's going to be a colossal piece of shit from the first 5 seconds. Every performance in this movie is god-awful. Every single one of the characters is unbelievably phony. None of them feel like they're anything close to a real person, and it's kind of amusing in a way. I don't even think the writers know what these characters are supposed to be. They're just high school girls, I guess. Too bad the writer is an old man with no comprehension of what a teenage girl actually is. The editing in this movie certainly doesn't help either. There's this bizarre kind of montage of these girls hanging out, and I guess it's implied that there's passage of time after each sentence. So it just goes like, ha ha ha, you're funny. Wow, you like literally cannot unsee that. Let's take a selfie. So these stupid girls decide to watch this cursed internet movie for no other reason other than they think that the boys might be doing it too. They're like, haha, it's not real, but let's do it anyway. But then as soon as they watch the video, they're like, oh, that was scary. I can't say anything. Something's clearly wrong here, even though nothing has happened yet. And then for the rest of the movie, Slender Man just fucks with them by making them hallucinate. They go on a school field trip to a graveyard, and they're just such bad friends that they walk away without realizing that they've left one of them behind, and they were just staring at the forest, and then they disappear for the rest of the movie. Apparently, Slender Man lured her into the forest, and her missing becomes a part of the central conflict for the movie. The 3 remaining girls decide that the best way to deal with this is to go into the forest at night and close their eyes in some sort of ritual to summon Slender Man. I thought you already summoned him by doing the same shit while watching that internet video. We do find out later that the missing girl was just so edgy that she decided to do this secondary ritual by herself, but I guess I'm just a little confused on what the point of the whole first ritual was then. I guess that one just gave you nightmares. Anyway, the rules say that when you hear the 3rd shitty church bell sound effect, then you can open your eyes again. But if you open them before that point and see Slender Man's face, then you'll be crazy forever. Sorry. Despite all of them being very thoroughly aware of this, one of the girls gets too scared and opens her eyes before the 3rd shitty church bell sound effect. I don't know, if you're scared of the Slender Man, then clearly you buy into the mythology, right? So why'd you decide to make yourself go crazy? Also, the characters that didn't open their eyes are constantly hallucinating as well. So I guess the girl that did is just a special brand of crazy? Whatever, she saw the Slender Man's face, so now she's particularly crazy for the rest of the movie. So she just stays in her room for the rest of the movie and is largely forgotten about by both the characters and the film itself. She stops showing up to class and her friends start making excuses like, she just has a cold, she's a little sick. Do you not give a shit about her at all? You don't want to maybe try to console her or hook her up with some sort of therapist or let somebody know that they're going through a rough time or something? We get a short scene of this character alone in her room and she hallucinates that Slender Man is strangling her, but she's actually strangling herself. She just stares at herself in the mirror with her hands around her throat and starts screaming at herself. Much later in the film, her friends briefly remember that she exists and decide to check up on her. And by check up on her, I mean they stand outside of her house at night and look at her window from a distance. Conveniently, this character is standing in her room looking out the window with a crazy expression on her face. And from that alone, her 2 friends decide, yeah, she is really crazy. She's got the ultra crazies. We can't save her. There's nothing we can do. We shouldn't talk to her anymore. Why did you decide to show up there in the middle of the night in particular anyway? It seems like every single conversation these girls have is in the middle of the night outside for no reason. I guess it's scarier that way? Isn't there a missing person right now? Whether it's actually Slender Man or a serial killer, do you really think that you should just be constantly hanging out outside by yourselves in the middle of the night? Could you not have these same conversations either indoors or in the daytime? Why would you do this? Even before Slender Man shows up, she's like, I don't think we should be doing this. At which point her friend's response is, it's too late now. And people in the audience started laughing. Now I'm gonna jump back to earlier in the movie. Sorry, this is kind of all over the place, but there's a decent amount to talk about because this movie is so terrible. Before they do the forest ritual, they they decide to look for some clues to get some information on what happened to their missing friend. So they go to her house in the middle of the night and see that her dad is drunkenly asleep on the couch. And they're like, perfect, we can sneak upstairs and see if we can find any clues. They also mention how the dad always leaves the back door unlocked at this house. But instead of just sneaking inside while he's asleep and going upstairs, they get one of them to ring the doorbell and wake him up to distract him while the other two girls sneak in through the back and go upstairs? Would it not have been easier to sneak around his house while he's drunkenly asleep? Why did you wake him up? Were you trying to raise the stakes or something? I don't understand why you did this. There's a really great moment where the girls are talking by their lockers at school, and it's really obvious that the girl from Wish Upon just forgot her line, but they kept the take anyway. By the way, I would highly recommend Wish Upon for a really funny bad movie. Anyway, she's by her locker and she says something like, listen, we have to dig into this so that we can find her. Apparently that was the best take. It was pretty funny. Anyway, after the one girl goes ultra crazy, the two remaining girls just start bickering with each other. One of them has been really obsessive about the Slender Man and has been spending her time going to the library and doing Google searches. She apparently found a lot of information by searching the words pattern of missing children. And the other girl is just willfully ignoring everything that's happening and is like, I want to date this one guy. He really likes me and we're going to go on a date and I'm going to be happy and nothing bad is happening anymore. I don't like you anymore. We're angry at each other. Let's argue in the middle of the night outside. So she goes on a date with this guy, which means that she shows up at his house in the middle of the night. And as soon as she gets inside, they put on a record and start making out as if they've spoken more than 5 words to each other throughout the entire film. None of this was developed at all. The most we got was them exchanging glances at other points in the movie. I'm not even sure they know each other's last names, but whatever, I guess they're gonna fuck now. But as they're making out on the couch, she starts hallucinating, I guess. He gets a really stupid demon face that looks like someone's first attempt at After Effects, and he just starts yelling like, "Roar!" I felt like I was watching a sketch from Tim and Eric's bedtime stories. It was easily the funniest part of the movie, and many audience members were laughing hysterically. So after she snaps out of it, she's like, oh, by the way, there's this stupid video that I watched, but please don't watch it. It would be best if you don't watch it. Promise me you won't watch it. I love you so much. Don't watch it. And the next day, he shows up late to class looking all emo with a costume change. Like this kid apparently watched the video and the first thing he did was buy a beanie. It was really funny. Pretty much all of the effects in the film were god-awful. The Slender Man himself looked like he was plucked straight out of that low-budget Slender Man the 8 Pages game. The computer animation in this film just looked like an unfinished product. It was all pretty garbage. There were several jump scares in this movie that were literally just people walking by like normal. Oh no, a librarian in the library! The film's score fucking sucked and was either the result of lack of talent or lack of effort. I don't think any composer would waste any of their good material on a movie like this. The whole thing just meanders and dicks around forever. One of them hallucinates, and then they go on the internet, and then they bicker at each other, and then one of them hallucinates, and then they go on the internet, and they bicker at each other in the middle of the night. And the only reason this movie even ends is because one of the girls decides to sacrifice herself so that the Slender Man will leave this other girl alone. She goes into the woods and says, take me, and then Slender Man turns into a big spider and then turns her into a tree. Nothing scary, you don't give a shit about anybody, everything looks like shit. Nobody talks like a real fucking person. None of the sound effects sound like they're actually taking place in the film's universe. The film is littered with Sony product placements. There's several scenes that are clearly forced into the movie where the characters are looking at scary things happening on their phones. Also, you can see the giant Sony logo on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm not sure how many people in the theater actually showed up to this movie unironically, but nobody fucking took it seriously. It's a big shitty joke of a film that's both simultaneously boring and hilarious. Don't show up to this one expecting anything even remotely competent. And I'm giving this one a 1 out of 10.